Hello, everyone. On behalf of the Application Security Support Team, I'd like to welcome you to today's IBM Support OpenMic webcast for AppScan Enterprise. Our open mics are designed to address specific topics and provide technical exchange in an online webcast format. My name is Kate Smith. I'm the Social Support Program Manager for IBM Security Support, and I'll be the moderator for today's event. As you see on the screen, we have several technical experts on hand today to share their knowledge and to answer your questions. Our presenter is Vio Onwut, who is a security software architect and research staff member. Today's topic is how to customize AppScan Enterprise to fit your organization's needs. We'll start today with a presentation by Vio, who will be sharing using the IBM Smart Cloud Meetings. And with that, we're ready to begin the presentation portion of the hour. Vio, whenever you're ready.
Thank you very much, and thank you everybody for joining today's presentation. We'll be talking about AppScan Enterprise and how to customize AppScan Enterprise to fit your organization needs. And what I thought is going to be useful for today's session is to transform a marketing slide into a practical slide. So without further ado, this is one of the slides that you have probably seen in the past. It talks about how our product can solve the security team challenges. And this is mainly a small team and a lot of applications, a lot of places where you keep the applications inventory, as well as a lot of places where you perform application security testing. And the questions in this slide is, which ones are our applications, the most important ones that we should be fixing, how we should prioritize the fixing of the vulnerabilities, which applications present the higher risk, and so on and so forth. So all the presentation that will follow up is talking about this slide. And when we look at this slide, in theory it looks very nice and all that, but I'd like to go over the practical aspect of the slide and see how we can actually do some of all these claims that are here. So on slide 3, as I mentioned, the goal of this is to make it practical. And out of the box, AppScan Enterprise ships with a default configuration. And the question that we should all ask is, does AppScan Enterprise fit my needs? And no matter how much we try to fit every customer needs, there will be always differences. And when we start thinking about AppScan Enterprise and application security management, we knew from the get-go that we're not going to meet all the the requirements, and therefore we needed to allow our product to adapt to your needs. So if it doesn't fit your needs, if the default configuration that we ship with doesn't reflect what you want to do, it is always good to know that AppScan Enterprise, the application security management side, is highly customizable. And what we mean by that is you can customize the application profile, and that one we introduced last year, the customization of enterprise profile. But you can application profile. You can also customize the risk of your application so that the formula that you are going to be using is going to be specific for your organization. We can also, or AppScan Enterprise also allows you to customize the issue profiles. And we'll go over that in a second. But what that means is, different issues, SAST issues, DAST issues, penetration testing issues, they have different attributes. You may have in your organization another type of issues. Maybe that are done through, a Nessus scan or a port scan, and all these issues have attributes, but they are different between different sources. So AppScan Enterprise allows you to customize the way that you represent issues, as well as how you will get those issues into the product, and that's what we call import scanner profile. So the previous marketing slide, this is actually what we mean by that. And I know there are a lot of boxes there, and I'll try to go in this presentation over each one of them, but this leads us to slide 5, which is the agenda of of this call. And I skipped through the previous slide very fast because I didn't want you to spend too much time in reading all of those. So in order to accomplish everything that we try to, or we think that our product should address, we need to first start building our application inventory. Then we need to understand how to compute the risk rating for the organization, or maybe understand how AppScan Enterprise allows you to compute the risk rating for organization, because I'm pretty sure you have your own way of computing what is risk for you. Then we need to address, which application should be testing, and that is, tying back to the small team and a lot of applications, where we test the ones that probably are the highest risk at the beginning. Then fix high priority issues on those applications. We can also use AppScan Enterprise to monitor the issue resolution as it happens. And then, while doing this exercise, you can also use AppScan Enterprise to figure out if you should be employing some sort of team training on the issues that are found. So each one of these steps in AppScan Enterprise can be achieved through a sequence of sub-steps. And I'd like to concentrate first on building the application inventory. I do apologize if some of the customers on the call already know about this, but I tried to create an audio from beginning till the end, and I hope that during the presentation you'll find pieces of information that you didn't know about. So anyways, upon upgrade and new install, you will see the AppScan Enterprise Monitor tab, and this is the place where we keep applications. And if it's a new install, then you won't have any applications. Or if it's an upgrade from a previous version, not 9.0, but previous than that, you won't have applications. And if in the past we were focused on scans, now we are focusing on applications, because an application obviously can contain many testing activities, including penetration testing, including SAS, including DAS, and other things. So this is the portfolio screen that you see, and the first thing that we suggest our customers to do is to look at the application profile template and see if the attributes of an application resonate with them. And if they do, then it's great. If not, they can be disabled or they can be added. So new attributes can be added. As you see in this profile, and allows you to see the name of the attribute. So everything is about an application. So an application has a name, a description, a risk associated with it, a business impact. And it also allows you to view the values of different attributes. So for instance, for a formula, you can see the formula, how is it computed. For a drop-down, you can see the options in that drop-down. So for instance, business impact, low, high, medium. So all of that is also customizable. In the next slide, which is slide 8, I want to show an example of PCI compliance. So for instance, let's assume that everything is great, you install AppScan Enterprise, but it doesn't do what you want it to do, and you are mostly interested in PCI compliance. Well, there is nothing preventing you from adding a new attribute in this view. And by the way, this operation is maybe a one-time operation, or that is done by the security analyst or the administrator of the system. It applies to all the applications that exist in the system. And of course, it can be revisited at any time. At any point in time, you can come back here and you can change the attributes. So, but in this example, I just added two attributes, the PCI compliance and the customer-facing attributes. And I made both of these drop-downs, meaning that I want to choose between different options within every one of these attributes. And if we take a look at the PCI compliance, you see now on the screen that the values for it that I choose are compliant, not required. Those are some of the values that came to mind. And of course, they don't need to be exactly like that, but that's what I use in my example. One thing that I want to note here is that besides the fact that you can list the values here, and you can have a color representation for it, you can, bold, italic, and that's, that's not as important as the last column, which is the numeric value. The numeric value is something that AppScan Enterprise uses when it computes formulas. It's a very powerful way of you prioritizing what you mean. So, in this case, I just choose 0, 1, 2, 3, and you can see that, from I have compliant, not required, and not compliant. So for me, not compliant is worse than being not required, which is worse than being compliant, obviously, right? So as an example, that's how I choose the numeric value, and I will show you how I use that in the formulas later on. But basically, every time when you have an application and someone goes and edits the PCI compliance attribute and sets maybe to non-compliant, what that means is that in our formula calculations, we'll use number 3 as a number that will contribute to formulas, and that again is customizable by you. Once you have done that and you have defined your application profile, and even before that, you can start importing your applications. And the whole idea is that we want our customers to start using the ASM and start keeping track of their applications in our product. And if before maybe you were using another system to keep track of those applications, now you can import them through comma-separated files and comma-separated values. And this will be just an example of how CSV file would look like for this organization that I made up, that has a name for the application, PCI compliance, customer facing, testing status, and other attributes. And each row represents one of the applications. So what happens is when we go over this file, and you can import it right away, we try to identify the column headers with the application attributes, and if we find a match, then we will consume that data. So you can import your applications, and after you import the applications, you will see all of them pre-populated in your list. Now what that means is also that you can start searching for different things, applying filters to it. You can search for a URL, or you can search for an application name or a business unit. You can start using the functionality that AppScan Enterprise Monitor tab provides you in order to navigate through your application and find your information fast. Now the next step, let's say that we build our application inventory. And by the way, I should mention that when you build your application inventory, if you have, let's say that you have a spreadsheet and then you realize, it was outdated and you did some changes and now you want to import again, that's fine. AppScan Enterprise is not going to create new applications. It's going to use the application name as a unique identifier and will update the fields of the applications according to whatever you are reporting. So once you build your application inventory, you can start thinking about the risk formula and thinking that if this formula that we ship with fits you or not, or it should be changed. And in this example, I went back in the application profile template, and I'm looking at the formula for the risk calculations. And there is a formula, this is the formula that we ship with. It has 3 main factors that contribute to it: business impact, the testing status, and max severity for an issue. However, let's say that for the sake of argument, you don't quite like this formula and you disagree with parts of it, or you want to enhance it. So I added in slide 15 an example of how I would change it for PCI compliance. And you can see there that I changed the business impact. I removed that maybe because that's not that important in this example. Maybe it is, maybe it's not. But I removed it and I put PCI compliance. And the formula that you have there is almost like a formula in Excel. So, you have an if statement, and, if the PCI compliance equals 0, so if it's, unknown, then the risk is unknown because I have no idea how to compute the risk. However, if the PCI compliance is not unknown, then, we proceed in, checking if the testing status is completed. And if it's completed, you see there I put 4 times PCI compliance plus 2 times customer facing. So what I mean by that is I want to give more weight to PCI compliance than the customer facing attribute. And the customer facing attribute, even I didn't go over it, it's just a yes or no. Is this website customer facing or not? And in this way, when I add them together and I multiply by 4 and 2, I give a factor of 50% more to the PCI compliance weight than to the customer facing. And then, I'm adding all of that to the max severity for the application, because the reasoning is, if there is a high or a critical issue there, then maybe I should include that into the formula and I should take a look at that. So This exercise is an exercise, again, for the security analyst when it defines the product and you know what is your risk. So, I encourage everybody to use this functionality to map the risk, not to the risk that we tell you should use, but to the risk that you really want to use. So, after I do this, then the risk rating should allow you to, should appear or should change, should not be zero or unspecified anymore. It should use your formulas as well as the application attributes in order to understand, what is the risk for it. So to go one step further than that, once you did that, then the next thing is, what are my critical applications? So you can go to the dashboards and you can see, we have the security risk rating, which is this formula. It's applied to all applications, and you can maybe find your 83 high applications that are displayed here, and you want to take some actions on them. And that will mean going to the next step, which is testing these applications. Now, when we do testing of the applications, we have AppScan SAST and AppScan DAST, and those are great technologies, but customers usually may also involve penetration testing activities, or maybe Nessus port scanning, or maybe Sentinel scanning, or whatever other type of source for vulnerabilities you may have. And while all of these are producing issues, there are common issue attributes like the issue type. Of course, they will be having different names across all of these scanning technologies, but they will all talk about the type. Is it a cross-site splitting, SQL injection? Then there are specific issue attributes. For instance, for a DAST you have URL. For a SAST you have line number or trace. You have port number and host for a Nessus scan. You also have different way of defining uniqueness. And when we talk about uniqueness, issue uniqueness is what does it make unique an issue. And why is important? It's very important for us because we need to know upon subsequent updates if we should be creating new issues or we should update existing issues. And for instance, if we just take some examples, White Hat Sentinel uses the vuln ID. Nessus uses a combination of name, host, port, and protocol. We have our own IDs. So you can see how all these sources of information have their own way of defining uniqueness, and that's okay because you cannot standardize these things. And then, as I was saying, you have common issue attributes, but they have different names. So they all talk about the same things, but they simply have different names. So name for Nessus, it's equal to the class for White Hat Sentinel, and it's equal to the issue type for AppScan Enterprise. So obviously, when you bring in vulnerabilities from Nessus Scan, you want to map this name to what we call issue type. You don't want to create Nessus name because that doesn't make sense. The same thing for White Hat Sentinel. You are, and I'm choosing this example just as an example, but you can think of other ones that really apply to your organization. For White Hat Sentinel, when you bring the class issue attribute into AppScan Enterprise, you know that class is talking about the issue type, so you want to map that to an issue type, or it's either an existing issue type or a new issue type that exists only in White Hat or only in Nessus. So all of this flexibility we needed to accommodate in AppScan Enterprise because we wanted you to be able to import your issues into ASM and start using our reporting functionality. Moreover, what we wanted to do and what we did is once you import the issues, like for instance Nessus issues, there is no difference in AppScan Enterprise the way we handle our DAST and SAST issues and the way that Nessus issues are brought in. They are supposed to be treated the same so that you can, so that they can be used in formulas, they can bubble up in dashboards and so on and so forth without any kind of differences. I will just give an example for a Nessus scanner. This is an export. Most of these third-party tools will allow you to export in comma-separated values. This is something that we choose that we thought is a format that everybody understands. So you export in comma-separated format, and then this is how the export looks like. This is on slide 21. The Nessus scanner will provide you with a spreadsheet The first row is different attributes of those issues. So the plugin ID, CVE, CVSS if it's known. You have the risk associated with it, the host, protocol, port, and so on and so forth, the name. And we want to take this thing and we don't want to alter it, but we want to allow you to import it in AppScan Enterprise without us writing any kind of extra code. And to do that, we actually need in AppScan Enterprise to allow you to define these attributes that Nessus is bringing in. So I changed to slide 22, and in this slide there is a issue profile template, just like the application profile template that we previously talked about, except that it talks about issues in this case. So if we look at the Nessus export, we can already see that AppScan Enterprise ships with some attributes for the issues that can be reused in the case of a Nessus import. So the issue type, the description, the severity value, and the port are already there. However, there are some attributes that do not exist. And because you are using vulnerabilities from Nessus, and you think that those attributes are important, then you would need to add them in the issue profile. So what we can add on slide 23, you can see, host, protocol, CVE, and plugin ID. Those are attributes that I added on top of what AppScan Enterprise shipped with in order to accommodate this Nessus import. And again, the fact that I call them host, protocol, CVE, and plugin ID, that's, I try to use names that are meaningful, but there is nothing preventing you from calling differently. So for instance, plugin ID, you could say Nessus plugin ID, and so on and so forth. So now that we have defined the attributes that we are interested in, and by the way, when I say attributes that we are interested in, is if you use a third-party tool and there are some issue attributes that you really don't care about, you don't have to import everything in AppScan Enterprise. So if you don't define those attributes, that's fine. We're going to skip over them. So we're going to skip those columns that we don't have a definition for them, or you didn't define what you want that attribute to do. So now that we have defined the attributes for issues, we need to define the mapping. So what we mean by that is Nessus calls these attributes one name, we call those attributes a different name. We need to understand what is the mapping between these names so that when you import the Nessus file, we know how to map those to our AppScan Enterprise attributes. And that's what this screen shows on slide 24. By default, AppScan Enterprise ships with a generic scanner profile and a white hat Sentinel scanner profile. And the generic one is just to give you an idea of how the scanner profile is. The white hat Sentinel, it works out of the box with a white hat. And in this example, I just created another one, which is called Nessus, which you can do on your instance right away, even after this call. So I created a new scanner profile template, and on slide 25, you will see the mapping that I've done between the Nessus attribute name and the issue attribute name that AppScan Enterprise has. So those two columns just map how Nessus called them and how we call these attributes. And in this screenshot, the mapping is a one-to-one mapping. But there are examples, like I said in the past, for the name, for instance, that will be issue type in the case of Nessus profile. The other important thing to note here is the unique column that you have on the right-hand side, the very last one. That column allows us to cope with different way of defining what is unique about an issue. And as I was saying, in case of Nessus, you got to combine a couple of attributes in order to define the uniqueness, or to understand the uniqueness of an issue. And this will allow us, on subsequent imports from Nessus, we will know that we have encountered that vulnerability or not, so we will update it or not. On slide 26, so if up to this point I was having the hat of a security analyst who's doing the profiles and is setting up the instance, right now I switch hats, and I'm now the developer or the tester or the security tester that has done a Nessus scan and I really want to import that information into AppScan Enterprise. And once these profiles are created, all that the user needs to do is to open up an application, go to it and hit the import of issues. And the moment they hit the import of issues, they will need to choose between, they will need to choose a scanner. So what is the source of information? In this case, in slide 26, you can see that is Nessus is the source of information. The scan name, which is, in a sense, it's almost like the job name or the Dust job name, if you wish, is the testing activity name that you've done in order to come up with those results. You can put whatever you want there, but it's a nice way of later on going back and querying for that, because maybe you are doing Nessus scans for different parts of your, or maybe I should say, maybe you are doing multiple Nessus scans for one application, and maybe you're doing it based on components. Well, you can put the component name there. You can use this field in order to understand and later on triage, find issues that were imported through that import. So when we hit the import button, it's almost like I'm in AppScan Enterprise. It's almost like you are running a scan. Right now, you are running a scan which is called daily scan, and the result of that scan is the vulnerabilities that Nessus detected. Right? Obviously, Nessus already has done his scan, and I have the comma-separated value files. But that's how we interpret, and that's how we wanted to interpret it in AppScan Enterprise, so that there is no distinction between third-party import and our own scan. Alright, so after that, on slide 27, you can see that once you start creating or importing these issues, they will appear in the issue tab. And what I'm looking at in this slide is I'm looking at details about a specific application. So I switch tabs. I'm not, if you notice, I'm not in the portfolio tab anymore. I'm in the tab that explains this current application. And you can see that there is a filter, scanner equals Nessus, that is applied right now, and you see 154 issues. That means that all those issues were imported for Nessus scan. But I could also search for the scan name, which is daily scan, which is up a little bit up. It's another filter, and that will give me the issues that were imported as part of that daily scan. So going back to the point of, if you have multiple scans that are done with the same scanner, in this case Nessus, you can either search for all the issues that were imported from that scanner for this application, or you can search for all the issues that were imported as part of a testing activity in combination with the scanner, or any kind of other filters you want to apply. Because once the issues are here, you can start searching for all the attributes that were in that spreadsheet that I showed earlier, the Nessus spreadsheet. So once we import that, I just want to go quickly over White Hat Sentinel scanner profile. And again, I'm switching hats now. I'm the security analyst, and I want to see, how the White Hat scanner profile is defined in AppScan Enterprise. And this is just to give a different example of a scanner. And in this case, you can see that what White Hat calls vulnerability ID, we internally call White Hat Sec Vul ID in AppScan Enterprise. So there is a one-to-one mapping there. You can also see the uniqueness in this case is just per one field. Why? Because White Hat provides us with an ID, so it just makes sense to use that ID as a uniqueness criteria for the vulnerabilities that are coming from them. You can also see that the class, what they call class, is mapped into the issue type. And this leads us to another feature that we introduced in AppScan Enterprise, which says, that whatever issue types they have, we can accommodate them into AppScan Enterprise. So on slide 29, it's the same workflow for White Hat Sentinel. I'm not going to insist on it, but it's exactly the same thing. You choose, as a user, you choose the White Hat Sentinel, you upload the scanner, and on slide 30, you see that now I have, issues that are from White Hat Sentinel, 29 issues, and issues that came from Nessus, 138 issues. Now in this particular example, I don't have issues that come from our SAST and DAST scan, but they will be treated exactly the same. And the reason I'm doing that is that I want to entice you to bring in AppScan Enterprise any kind of issues that you have through your penetration testing or through your third-party scanner. Bring them in here and issue manage here and let them contribute to the risk calculation. Now that I've done the import of the issue, so I have defined the profiles, I have done the import, now I want to do the triage of findings. And again, when we are in the same screen, and I'm, you see that there is a grouping based on the severity, medium, undetermined. So for some other applications, you may have other categories. So the issue triage can be done easily by, you either can select different issues and then a contextual menu will appear. The one on the right-hand side, top corner, you have open, in progress, fixed, noise, and pass. You can easily manage these applications and you can mark them accordingly in AppScan Enterprise. Or you can open, I don't have slides for that, but you can open the issue by itself and you can go there and modify any kind of attributes that issue has, as well as do the issue management there. So on slide 32, what we want to say is that once you have done the issue triage and once you are happy with what you've done, you can mark this current application as testing status is completed. So I finished the testing and now I'm ready to go to the next step to start monitoring what's happening. And if you recall in the formula calculations that we use for the risk rating, we had a clause there that if the testing status is completed, then we're gonna start computing what is the risk for the application and how you can use that. So in the screen that you see is the screen that you can define the application attributes, but we have a similar screen for the issues. So when you open an issue, now you might wonder, I configured, Nessus, a white hat Sentinel. I have our own AppScan SAS and AppScan DAS, and that's a lot of attributes for those issues. How would the issue look like when you open it up? And AppScan Enterprise is smart enough to to not clutter the issue with all the attributes that don't apply to it. So if you open a SAS issue, it won't have the DAS attributes, or at least you won't see them being there, because we just the UI is just gonna ignore the empty values for it. That doesn't mean that you cannot add to the issue or you cannot instantiate. So I give you an example. If you have a SAS issue and you actually know the URL that once that issue is deployed to an application, where the application is deployed, if you know the URL for that issue, there is nothing that prevents you to go and edit the issue, even though it's a SAS issue. And when you go in the edit mode, we'll enable all the attributes that the issue can have, and you can find the URL and you can instantiate the URL with a value, and therefore you can now edit information in those issues that you couldn't have done before. All right, so now that we have done everything, now we want to proceed with fixing the high priority issues. And if we look at an application, I took in this example the highest risk rating application. You can go there and you can see all the high severity issues. And the question is now, how do I fix those? So the way we envision is that probably the security analyst is not going to be the guy that fixes it, or the security champion is not going to be the guy that is fixing them. But however, there will be someone that is going to be responsible for this. And I want to point out a feature that AppScan Enterprise has, and that has to do with filters. Every time when you apply a filter, whether you are in the portfolio or in an application view, the filters are kept in the URL. So what that allows you to do is, you set up your filter. Maybe you search for severity high, in this case in Arturo 1.0 applications. You want to share that with your team. All you need to do is to copy paste the URL and send it in an email. Or you want to bookmark it. You can bookmark it and you can come back and we'll know exactly how to re-show the exact filter and all the issues there that are applied. So in this example, I'm just sending an email to the team. Also through that, you can start monitoring the issue resolution. because if the team starts, marking those issues as fixed, that will influence the risk rating. You remember that we added the max severity for the issues for the risk rating. So, the moment that the application will not have critical issues, the risk is going to go lower. If it doesn't have high issues, the risk is going to go lower. And again, that's just because the way I use the formula. If you don't care about that thing, you can go back to the risk calculation formula. You can change all of that. But that is in this example. You can also see the security risk rating by the business unit. You can see how your business units are doing, and what is unknown, what is high, medium, low. Critical issues, if you have, they will be there. You can also look at a different angle. Maybe you don't want to look at the risk. You want to just look at by severity. What are the issues by severity. So there is a chart there that allows you to see the issues by max severity. This is the way that you will be able to track the testing status for the issues that are not tested. For the applications that are not tested, I'm in the portfolio screen and I see the things that haven't been tested, the applications that haven't been tested. And finally, the last thing is how you employ a team training. Well, if you look at dashboard, there is top issue types chart, and the whole purpose of that chart is to give you the top issues that are found in your organization, so that maybe, if you have a lot of process fitting, maybe you can do some training of your devs around that. So with that in mind, this is the takeaway slide. This has all the steps that I went through, and I hope that will help you modify AppScan Enterprise to fit your organization needs. And I'm at the end of my presentation. The other thing that I want to mention is the fact that you can, if you have a third-party tool that doesn't export in comma-separated format, comma-separated value format, then on your side you'll need to have some sort of conversion from that format into a comma-separated format, and then push that into AppScan Enterprise. And while this is not as convenient, it needs to be done because there is no way we will understand all the formats that are out there. And again, the safest bet was to go with a comma-separated value. But of course, you can massage the data that you get from your third-party tool and import it, transform it in comma-separated value and import it. The other thing that I want to mention is the fact that AppScan Enterprise now ships with documentation for the APIs that we have, which is done through Swagger. And it will allow you, those pages will allow you to exercise our REST APIs just like our interface or our UI is doing. And I hope that you can go there and try it out. Please note that if you are doing anything through the REST API, of course, it's going to be reflected into the deployment of your AppScan Enterprise. So everything is live. It's not like a try REST APIs. Those are the actual REST APIs that we use, and the product will respond to them. And one last thing, I included at the last slide of the slide deck some resources that you may find useful, and that's something that you may want to check out. There are some videos there that are very useful.
Theo, thank you so much. I want to just take a moment to thank everybody for joining the Open Mic today. We have already posted the presentation to the webcast tech note, which is number 704-4990. We want to let you know that we hope to have our next Open Mic for AppScan Enterprise during the second quarter of 2015. We already have scheduled 2 Open Mics, one for AppScan Source, which is on March 3rd, and another one for April 14th. So please stay tuned. Again, I want to thank you for joining today. Thank you for your time, and we all hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.